Hey everybody, it's me, Randy C, and welcome to Back in Time. There is one interview that has always eluded Jason Agnew, and trust me, it's not by Jason's choice, and that is Hulk Hogan. With the recent passing of the Hulkster, I scoured through the archives to find an interview of a person closest to the prayer sayer, the vitamin taker, and came across this one with the one and only Jimmy Hart. It's June of 2019, and the recently inducted Wrestling Observer Hall of Famer Jimmy Hart sits down with Jason, and they talk about an upcoming appearance in Toronto and Kingston, the Honky Tonk Man induction to the WWE Hall of Fame, the role of managers in modern day wrestling, Jimmy's favorite wrestling song ever, and the status of tag team wrestling. Now, if you enjoy this interview, please like, comment, and subscribe. Tell us what interviews you want to hear. I'll try to post them up here for you. Follow the Hub Sports Entertainment on any podcasting platforms, because I have probably the largest archive of wrestling interviews out there. So, again, rest in peace, Hulk Hogan. This is Jason Agnew's interview with the one and only Jimmy Hart.
My next guest is going to be at Kingston, Ontario on Saturday, June 15th for Chinlocks Wrestling's Legends Convention and Charity Wrestling Show, and is going to be right here in Toronto next Sunday night for an evening of wrestling stories at Absolute Comedy in Toronto. And if anyone can tell stories and talk, it is this gentleman, the mouth of the South, Jimmy Hart. Welcome to Sunday night's main event.
Thank you so much. Are you trying to say if my lips are moving, I'm lying?
I would never say that. I would never say. You know what, Jimmy? They're going to be stories, whether they're factual or not. It's all about entertainment value, is it not?
Well, you know what? I feel like I'm Canadian after managing Bret the Hitman Hart for so many years, and Dino Bravo and the Rougeau brothers, from Montreal. And so, we've had a lot of great stories through the years. I was appeared on WrestleMania 1, of course, with King Kong Bundy and Greg the Hammer Valentine. And, we've had a great run with the WWE, the greatest company in the world.
So, Jimmy, for those people who haven't been to one of your shows, you've done a few of these. Now you're doing this type of tour thing. So what can people expect when they go and attend one?
Well, we try to make it a little bit different. Everything's, there's nothing off limits. They can ask me anything they want. But we talk a lot about the music, because a lot of the wrestling managers didn't do a lot of music like I was able to. I've been so blessed coming from a musical background with the Gentrys back before I got into wrestling. And then some of the people I've managed through the years have been such iconic figures like Bret Hart and Hulk Hogan and the Rougeau brothers, the Nasty Boys, Honky Tonk Man, who I just inducted into the WWE Hall of Fame this year. And then, of course, last year, my good friend that was in Ledkin's house with me, Hillbilly Jim, I inducted him last year. After I finished inducting Honky Tonk this year, I told Vince, I said, I've only got 17 more guys to put in, so see you next year.
That's funny. Hey, let's talk about Honky Tonk Man, actually. I mean, here's a guy who for years said, I'm not interested in going into the Hall of Fame. This year was very appreciative to be going in. Were you surprised when Honky finally said yes?
Absolutely not, because, Honky and I, we've always been friends. One thing about me and my guys, we always stayed in contact, whether we were on the road together or not. Bret Hart and I would always talk together 2 or 3 times a year. Me and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, the late Jim Neidhart. Even me and Gene Oakland, we did a lot of shows together. And you forget, by doing all these legend shows around the country that we do each and every week, we still see a lot of the people we used to manage or we used to travel with on the road, or some people we used to go up against. Let me tell you what my schedule was over the last 6 weeks. Liverpool, England, 6 weeks ago, 3 days, Comic-Con with everybody over there. Then from there, the week after that, I went to Vancouver, British Columbia. Same thing, autograph sessions over there with a lot of the superstars. After that, I was in Atlantic City, New Jersey. And then a couple of weeks ago, I was in Las Vegas for the StarCast convention thing, autographs and stuff. This past weekend, yesterday I was at Hogan's Beach Shop doing autographs. And then, of course, next week, I'm up with you guys up in the Great White North up in Canada.
Yeah, I mean, you've obviously you're on the road, you're doing all that, and along with that, you inducted Honky this year into the WWE Hall of Fame, but you yourself were inducted into a Hall of Fame this year, and that was the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame. How did that feel for you?
I was so surprised because first of all, I didn't even know it. Nobody even called and told me. I thought I'd get some kind of award, but I guess you don't get anything. You're just put into it, which I guess that's good enough. But a friend of mine called me going, "Congratulations!" I said, "What did I win?" He goes, "You're just inducted into the Observer Hall of Fame." And I went, "What?"
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Well, that's a great compliment because that used to kind of be the Bible of wrestling before the internet got so popular. Now that social media is so big, everybody knows what's going on in the wrestling world, who's dating who, who's seeing who's leaving wrestling, who's retiring, who's coming back, who's passed away, and everything from social media. So, but that was a nice treat. I really enjoyed that very much.
Jimmy, in your time, there were so many managers, yourself, Bobby Heenan, Slick, and all these guys. We haven't really seen that recently in wrestling. Do you think that it takes away from the product itself? Like, should managers be back?
Well, to me, it's like tag teams. I love tag teams because back in our era with the WWE, we had the Bulldogs, we had the Killer Bees, we had the Hart Foundation, we had the Nasty Boys, we had the Rougeau Brothers, we had the Powers of Pain, we had the Demolition. We had so many of the tag teams. You don't even see a lot of tag teams anymore. And when you do, it's not really tag teams that have been together. It's kind of a mismatch, And so who knows? Maybe one day they'll put the managers back in. But I tell you what, I love watching Paul Heyman on TV. I love Paul Heyman. His interviews are so great and so entertaining, and he is so good. And so, who knows what the future holds? One thing about wrestling, anything can change at any moment.
That is very true. Now, I do want to duck back because you talked about being part of the music industry first. And I mean, myself and my co-host Dan Lavransky, especially Dan, huge fan of your work with the Gentrys and Keep On Dancing, which was your huge hit, of course. How did you go, though, from the music industry and having that hit with Keep On Dancing to shifting over to the world of wrestling? Did you go to wrestling or did wrestling come to you?
Well, what happened? I went to high school with Jerry the King Lawler,
right.
And Lawler called me one day and said, "Look, I know you're in the Gentrys. I love your music and stuff. Will you help me do a wrestling album?" And I said, "I'm doing you a quick version of this." And I went, "Yes, I'd love to." So we became good friends. We put a wrestling album together, and the next thing you know, I'm managing Jerry Lawler on TV. Then 6 years later, all of a sudden, I get a call from the WWE, and I'm in New York City. Then Dave Wolf did the first Rockin' Wrestling with Cyndi Lauper, and I'd already been on American Bandstand with Dick Clark, and Dick Clark was there. So the next thing you know, I'm asked to help put a wrestling album together, which I did. I had Eat Your Heart Out, Rick Springfield on the first album. And then on the second, we had the Honky Tonk Man song. We had a couple of other hits that we had on that, too. The Demolition was one. And so we had a lot of fun doing that. So then it just led me doing Randy and Liz's wedding song, me and my partner, Jim McGuire. Then all of a sudden we cut the American Dream song, Dusty Rhodes' hit. And then we had the $1 Million Man song. We had the Rougeau Brothers, All American Boys.
Oh, that's my favorite, Jimmy. Jimmy, that's my favorite of all time.
We don't like heavy metal. We don't like rock and roll. All we like to listen to is Barry Manilow. Hey, And so we just had so much fun doing everything. And, it just the music and the wrestling is two things that I've always loved, and I still continue to do both of them now. And that's why I'm looking forward to being in Canada this week. First for the big charity show, of course. We'll get to see all of our friends again, and then doing the little comedy club thing. And we're talking about our favorite stories, and we'll have pictures. We'll have everything there. So hopefully the people will be able to come out and say hello to Jimmy Hart and ask me some of your favorite wrestling stories or some of your favorite wrestlers, and we'll talk a little bit about everything.
Jimmy, just two more questions before I say goodbye, because I know you're pressed for time. First one, you mentioned all those great themes that you had a hand in helping produce. Do you have a favorite of all time that still, when you hear it today, you're like, you know what? That still works for me. That's the fave.
Well, Sexy Boy by Shawn Michaels. We got to do that song, and I still love that one. And, Hulk's American Made, when we went to WCW, we had to come up with something besides Real American, so we wrote American Made over there, for them. And that was great. But Randy and Liz's wedding song, I still love that song because it's different. And plus, Nash and Hall, the Wolfpack song, we did that. And don't forget about 3 Count's big hit. We had 3 Count down in WCW. Can't get you out of my heart. So But we've just had so much fun and such a great time doing the music and doing the wrestling. And I'm so grateful for WWE calling me out of Memphis, Tennessee. I had great memories in Memphis, but having that phone call that sent me to New York, and I appeared on WrestleMania 1. And people always ask me to this day, was WrestleMania 3 your greatest moment in front of 92,000 or 3,000 people? WrestleMania 1 was still my greatest moment because a lot of people can't say they were on WrestleMania 1 and still alive.
And final question, Jimmy. When you talk music and wrestling classically, Jimmy Hart is a name that pops up, of course. Modern, though, it's Elias, who's doing a gimmick where, of course, he's going down to the ring, playing the guitar. He's an actual musician, which is great, doing this wrestling gimmick, unlike Honky Tonk Man and Jeff Jarrett, who didn't actually play the guitar. What do you think of Elias's gimmick and the potential he has?
I love Elias, but let me tell you, Hawk and I went to the movie premiere, or the video premiere, really, of Andre the Giant. While I was out there, one of the WWE officials put a camera in my face and said, Jimmy, is there any current talent that you'd like to manage? And I said, I'd like to manage Elias. I'd like to take him to Memphis, Tennessee like I did the Honky Tonk Man. I'd like to get him one of those rock and roll outfits. I'd like to take him to Sun Studios where I cut all of my hits with the late, great Knox Phillips and Sam Phillips over there. And I said, I'd cut him a brand new album over there and make him $1 million. And I said, but there's only one thing. I'd like to do Elias like Colonel Parker did Elvis. You know, Elvis Presley signed a contract with Colonel Parker where Elvis had to pay Colonel Parker 50% of everything he made. I said, Elias, if you sign with me, I only want 55% of what you make.
That's awesome. Thanks for taking time out, Jimmy. Really appreciate it.
I love you. Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, what did you guys think? One of the closest people in Hulk Hogan's life, Jimmy Hart, giving his views on tag team wrestling. What did you think about his favorite wrestling song ever? It wasn't the one that you thought, now was it? You know, if you like what you heard, please like, comment, and subscribe down below. Back in Time on the Hub Sports Entertainment, we have a plethora of other great shows like Draw Straws Raw with Eric B and myself, as well as the Smack Daddies, as well as We Talk Too Much. Again, like, comment, subscribe down below. We have a Patreon. You can go to patreon.com/The Draw. And thank you again for joining me this week and Back in Time, episode number 4, Jimmy Hart. So until next time, live, laugh, and love wrestling.
Deuces! Deuces!
They're eating, yeah. Does that bother you?
What's it called? 4 letters, 1 word. Stop.